Welcome to Leith Lives, podcasts about living, growing up or working in Leith, and a little bit about its history. In this episode we revisit an interview with Derek Tilbrook that was originally broadcast on our internet radio station Thelma FM during Leith Festival week 2019. We were showing Derek's 2008 film Persevere, a film history of Leith. Derek talks about the documentary, a real labour of love, his own upbringing in Leith in the 1980s and 90s, and how the area is changing. If you haven't already seen it, we highly recommend the film. It's available on the Vimeo video platform, that's Vimeo. Search under Persevere 2008 film. It's great viewing. Thank you. Delighted to welcome into the Thelma FM studio Derek Tilbrook. Thank you for coming, Derek.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I got him in the studio here to kind of talk about how the film came about. And you are a Leither, aren't you, Derek?
Yep. I born in Hopefield Terrace, went to Fort Primary School and then went along to Leith Academy after.
And family, all Leithers? Or?
Yep. My mum's side of the family are all Leithers, yeah. They all worked at the docks and stuff.
So a good connection there with the
aye.
docks. And tell us a little bit about, because you weren't a filmmaker prior to doing Persevere, were you?
No, I'm a joiner to trade, and then I had the opportunity to study film and television production at Julianesque Valley College, as it was called back then. During that time, I got more into making films, if you like, and I met the guys at Pilton Video, great community resource thing at the time, really up for people telling their stories. And so they managed to get us funding, pointed us in the right direction to get funding. It was from the National Lottery. We could get the film Persevere made. So that was kind of how it came about.
And that's quite an undertaking. I mean, it's a really well put together film, highly enjoyable. About 25 minutes long, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 25 minutes long. Pilton Video, like I say, they support people just starting out, but they've got some people that have been making films for years and years. We're really lucky. A guy, Grant McPhee, was the editor, and also Graham Fitzpatrick, I have to mention Graham. He's like the manager of what Pilton Video has now become, but he's an amazing editor. So he got involved as well. And because I'm a Leither, because family connections and stuff, I managed to get all the pieces and bring it together, and they really helped make the film what it is. So it's not just me, or it was a real team effort.
And how long did it actually take to shoot?
We based it around 4 or 5 big interviews. Fred Sylvester, Tam Ferguson, Mary Moriarty, Rab Singh and Ian. I can't remember Ian's second, that's terrible, but he did more of the sort of history side. So it was a good few weeks, and then we had to get the archive stuff, and then I sat down and done a rough edit kind of where I wanted it to go, and then we handed it over to the professionals, if you like, at Pilton Video, and so it was good, probably 6 months, I would say, all in. To get it done.
And this was, you would say, 2007?
2007, I think, when we shot it, because it was the Leith Festival's 100th year, which was just a coincidence. It wasn't that we planned it that way. I'd love to say it was planned that way, but it wasn't. And it was the year later that it came out. The first time it was shown was at the Dockers Club as part of the Leith Short Film Festival, which was part of the Leith Festival at the time.
Back to Derek Tilbrook and this excellent film, Persevere. As I was saying, you shot quite a lot of hours, Derek.
Yeah, probably each person was an interview for 2 or 3 hours. Yep, so we've probably got enough to make other films. Some of the stories were amazing. And the people that were in the film, we've got the Sings are represented, because when I was growing up they were a big part of Leith. The whole of Junction Street was owned by the Sings, or the shops were owned by the Sings. Went to school with them. They all seemed good guys. We had Fred Sylvester, who was who served his time as a joiner in Rob's, which was another place everybody thought they were going to go and get, but that was kind of taken away in the 80s as well. And Tam Ferguson, who was the shop steward for the Dockers, so they had amazing stories. And then obviously Mary Moriarty, who I always saw Mary as the start of the new Leith, if you like, because she's not from Leith, but she does probably more for Leith than anybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she was... I really wanted to speak to Mary to see why that is that people come here and love the place, and that loving it as much as the old Leithers, if you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's a good balance you got in the film, because it's not just a case of nostalgia. You are talking about how it's changed.
Oh, definitely. And to be fair, the film kind of came around because at the time they were heavily marketing Leith as Edinburgh's seafront, Edinburgh's waterfront.
Right.
And I mean, when I say heavily marketing, I'm talking about like massive billboards, and you know, there was like wanting to build massive flats in the docks and stuff like that. And it kind of annoyed a lot of people, especially my mum. My mum actually wrote a letter into the Evening News saying, this is not Edinburgh's waterfront, this is Leith. Please don't forget that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where the film's based, around that sort of thing, like how and why the place makes people feel like that. And I still don't know if we got to the bottom of it. And I don't know, like we were speaking before, I think it's maybe because it's still in living memory that Leith and Edinburgh were separate places.
Because we have this 100 years since it was amalgamated, don't we?
That's right, yeah.
It still annoys a lot of people.
It does. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on what happened, but as far as I know, people in Leith all voted against it.
Democracy doesn't always work.
Exactly.
And you were saying, I mean, there must have been stories that one you couldn't really broadcast, shall we say.
Yeah, there's a few.
Is there ones that didn't make it in that you possibly could repeat?
It was a brilliant story Tam Ferguson told us. I was asking him about industrial action strikes and stuff in the docks. And he said the only time he could really remember threatening any kind of strike, and I don't know if it was when he was younger or if he was part of the union, you'd need to ask Tam, but there was a boat full of sulphur came in, and the grabs were sparking on the side, and the boat was going up in flames. So I was like, oh, well, no wonder you went on strike, Tam. You can't go and do that. And he was like, aye. He said, so eventually we got more money in the fire brigade, and every time it went on fire, they just put it out, and then we went back on and started emptying it again. So...
So that's just part of the job, this fire thing.
Yeah, it was just... God. But we couldn't get any pictures from that. Tam said there was a brilliant photo of a guy standing on the deck, and his shoes is actually melted and curled. And he was looking for the photo, but nobody could find that photo. Like. But that would have been an amazing part of the film. I just thought it was quite funny, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Because we've just done a magazine about the dockers, or the docks, and there's some amazing stories which you either have to make anonymous or you really can't repeat, really.
They all knew each other by their nicknames and stuff.
Yeah, and you obviously, Henry Robbs was another major interview that you had.
I mean, as I say, I knew a few people. I was just younger. I never managed to go to anywhere like the docks or all of that kind of shut down when I was young, which was a shame, you know. Like I was saying to you before as well, I always thought I would be a docker. I always wanted to be a docker. My uncles were dockers, and my uncle Rab said to me, no, there'll be houses in the docks when you're older. And I thought, what are you talking about? But turns out he was right. I mean, that was the early 80s he must have been talking about back then. So
obviously that was 12 years ago. How do you think it's changed since then?
I think there's more social housing, if you like to call it that, than what there would have been if it hadn't been for the financial crash. I mean, at that time it was £1 million flats in the docks, and they were developing every little piece of land that could see the water. You know, it was like it was just going to be this massive wall, high-rise, straight along, you know what I mean? Yeah. In fact, Sandy Nelson, who's in the film, he says that he was a bit scared it was going to be like Leith would be on the other side of a massive wall of houses in the docks, you know what I mean? So there'd be like this trendy new part, and the old part would just be forgotten about, you know what I mean? And I think it maybe was heading that way, but it seems now that there's kind of reeled that in, and they've had a chance to think about the planning. And I mean, how many luxury flats do you really need, you know what I mean? So I think it's changed. I mean, I'm a bit like this Stage Place thing, like this whole Save Leith Walk thing. I think it's great. That was always there, and there was always businesses there, and to come in and just shut them down like that. And you know, I've had not arguments but discussions with my pals about Oh, they're building social housing and that. They were building like 43 flats or something and 200 room hotels, and it was just, personally, I think it's nonsense. So I mean, it's definitely changed. Definitely, I don't think we can slow it down. I think it's going to get faster. But I do hope that there is enough people still in Leith that consider themselves Leithers and consider themselves part of the community. They've moved to Leith or they're from Leith, whatever, that are going to be looking out for the people and interests of the people for Leith.
It's interesting you're saying because of the crash in 2008 that actually that almost have a positive.
Definitely. I mean, like I say, I'm a joiner and I work building these houses. I work for a company called Gregor Shaw. They actually had a place here in the terminal selling houses. Flats, models of flats that they were going to be building. They were going to go straight along the shore, like their name suggests, straight to Granton.
Yeah, I remember that. Waterside development, wasn't it?
Aye, I mean, the whole lot, like, and but it was always just flats, and as fast as they could build them, they were selling them. They were winning awards for the fastest development in Europe and stuff like that.
Right?
Oh, it was crazy, aye. So I suppose it has kind of helped in a weird way, like.
And I mean, have you stopped making films, or you?
There's always films on the back burner, but it's getting the time to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm back working on building sites and
Yeah.
looking after kids and stuff now, and so aye, plans to make more films.
Derek, now really a bit about his own youth in Leith. You would have been what, 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
So it was still quite a lively place in the 80s.
Aye, oh, definitely. Aye, there's a few sites kicking about. But I don't know if it was any worse or any better than anywhere else because I was in Leith, so I don't know. But the old central station was still there. Obviously, that's where Trainspotting gets its name from. Aye, it was a bit different. It was a lot. I don't know if it seemed to be busier or if it was busier, you know. But
and I suppose, I mean, the 70s were quite grim, well, in a lot of places. But obviously, as you've said, with all the businesses moving away, there would have been a lot of empty places.
I mean, there was loads of old warehouses that have obviously been turned into flats and that now. Probably shouldn't say this in case my mum's listening, but that's where we used to play when we were kids, you know what I mean? Building Tarzans and running around empty warehouses. There was loads of derelict stuff, loads all over the place when I was a kid. But there was still a lot of work as well, loads of factories. And my granny stayed in Coatfield Lane in the Curget. I think it was Melbrew that was there, the tea and coffee merchants. You could just smell burning coffee like all day, that's what you could smell there. 2 churches at either end. Coatfield Lane, there's the St Mary's and there's South Leith Parish Church. So it was great on a Saturday because you used to get the pourits.
Of course.
So like you go down to the St Mary's and get the pourrit there and scramble for that and then up to and just spend all day Saturday doing that and then up to Woolies for the pick and mix. So that was when I was really young, like.
I wonder if they do the pourits
I don't know. That's not a thing I've seen, but it used to be a regular thing, like.
Yeah. And that's a great tradition, isn't it?
Oh, aye.
And you talk about wars, I mean, that's gone, obviously.
I mean, the Curget used to be great. Like, I'm starting to actually feel like an old Leither now because I kind of remember the real Curget, but that's what you used to get for them as well. The Curget was great, you know, the Channel or whatever it was called, and all the shops and streets and that used to be done there. But when I was younger, it was like Boots and Cochrane's or Templeton's or whatever it was called. It was like a sort of supermarket place. The market just. I think it's where Farm Foods and that is now, and then there was the Monroe's the Butchers was there, and then they had the wee Vennel that went through.
That's right, the Vennel.
Straight through to Junction Street, and there was all the shops in there as well.
That's right.
And now it's a giant Lidl's, isn't it? Yeah, Woolies was massive. It was like a big giant shop at one time. It was brilliant. They actually sold food and stuff when I was a kid, you know what I mean?
And as you say, the pick and mix was a big thing.
The slush puppy machine.
So when you started going out and drinking, where would you have gone drinking?
Well, by that time I'd moved along to the bottom Loch End Road.
Right.
So Duke Street was where I'd like to golf, Mr Smith's, Skivvies, and then obviously when the shore started getting done up, everybody kind of started going down there. Before that, it was like I wasn't really old enough to be going down there before it started getting changed anyway, so it wasn't like the Manhattan and all that. I never went there, and Bubbles or anything. I went to Bubbles a couple of times. But I was never really doing that. It was always mostly along Duke Street, sort of way, Persevere. It was good. The golf was always a good pub. Mr. Smith's was just opposite my house, so that was always a good pub as well. And the Culzean and the Cambro and that at the front of the links. You go there on a Sunday and that, because obviously the pubs still closed at the time, but because they were hotels, go and drink in there on a Sunday afternoon.
I get all this.
It's crazy.
It is, isn't it? When you look back, bizarre.
But they were heaving. I mean, really busy at that time on a Sunday afternoon. And Skivvies was good. Dolphin at the bottom of Leith Walk, that was good. Used to go in there.
So, do you think that Leith, we're finished on this question, still has this different spirit to it than Edinburgh?
I do, I really do. And it's good, you have Facebook and stuff now, social media, and there's all these pages, I love Leith, and and it's great because there's people I knew that I grew up with and that on these things, and then you've got all these new Leithers that come along, and everybody still sort of feels the same way, you know what I mean? You maybe get somebody who comes on and a bit lippy, a bit cheeky about something, and everybody's just like, right, yeah. So I think that's good, and it's not just old Leithers or original Leithers, whatever you want to call them, that are feeling it that way, you know what I mean? It's like people that have moved in, so like the Shore. There was a great, I don't know if you ever saw that, but there was a great argument about the Shore.
Oh, right, okay.
And somebody who'd bought a flat in the Shore said, no, I don't live in the Shore, I live in Shore. And they were showing pictures of Shore, and if I phone a taxi, it's Shore. And I was like, oh, that's good that you've bought a flat, but it is in the Shore. That's where it is, you know what I mean? And there was just this big argument, and you're thinking, this is hilarious, you know what I mean? It's the Shore. Everybody knows it's the Shore, you know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely. That's what it is, and that's what it is.
So you've moved in for 5 minutes, and you've decided that
it's the Shore. Yeah, you got to go with what's there.
Exactly.
Good. And actually, when we put anything up on our Facebook page about Leith, it's absolutely mobbed with comments and from all over the world. I was
going to say that, people from all over the world, and it's good. And like I say, I think it's good that people move to Leith and get it, I like it. I mean, some people have a moan and go, I can't believe it. Just go then, you know what I mean? But most people, I think, they just love it.
Well, I think they come here because it is Leith. Like to thank Derek very much for coming along and telling us a bit about the film and his own upbringing in Leith. Thanks again to Derek.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leith Lives. The Living Memory Association have other podcasting channels, Life Story and the Thelma Tapes, where you can hear lots of stories and memories. Old music via Analog Rory's Jukebox and forgotten songs from the broom cupboard. Check them all out via our website www.livingmemory.org.uk. Once again, thank you for listening.